the top three things, which is a view, a brew, and a loo, or I've heard it's called a C, a tea, and a wee. So what's there? Is there somewhere to eat? And is there somewhere to go to the loo?
You're listening to Come Here, the podcast for and about heritage attractions, where you can discover somewhere worth visiting. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist with a background in archaeology, specialising in voiceover for the heritage sector. Each week, I chat to someone from a different museum, historic site, gallery or cultural space about why you should visit, and exactly what you can expect when you get there. Helen Reynolds is a freelance copywriter. Her business, Ink Gardener Copywriting, specialises in helping heritage attractions with their copy, especially for websites. If you work for a heritage attraction, then do listen to the end, as Helen has a really useful free gift for you. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Helen.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Liz. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Helen Reynolds. I run Ink Gardener Copywriting, and I create high converting web content for heritage attractions who want more visitors.
Wow, that sounds very, very niche, Helen.
Yes, pulling all my history buff roots on that one.
So I know you had a previous role at the Lake District National Park. What did you do there?
I was their web editor for 11 years. When I arrived, we had one website. When I left, we had four. So I was responsible for, I think it was about 1.6 million visitors to the online experience. And two of the websites were actually attractions. So Brockhole Visitor Centre on the shores of Windermere, which some of your listeners might have been to, and Coniston Boating Centre as well, which is always great fun to cover. We actually had a photo shoot out there with the team because we couldn't afford models. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, it does sound like fun. So tell us about some of the other visitor attractions that are within the national park.
Oh, there's so many, and it's just such a beautiful place. But there's a reason there are lakes, and it does rain. So I really love Blackwell Arts and Crafts House on the shores of Windermere, which has a fascinating history. It actually was a school during the Second World War.
Mm.
And it's amazing views, but also you've got all that lovely arts and crafts depth of decoration
Yeah.
and textures and colours. And then the other one, which is always a really quirky one, is the Pencil Museum in Keswick,
Oh, yes.
which is because of the graphite in the area. Derwent pencils come from there, and that is a really cracking museum. And there's a whole, I mean, they've really, the biggest pencil. They've got spy pencils. It's really genuinely fascinating, and it's really worth it. And it really is one of those things that people are like, really, and then they come out raving about it. So yeah, it's great
Yeah,
fun.
I have to say I went there on a wet day in the Lake District when I was there walking at university days, went with a friend.
Oh
And
wow!
one of the facts that I remember was that the snowman was drawn with pencils that were made in the Lake
Yes,
District. And every time we watched the snowman, my family were like, you're going to tell us, aren't you, again, that those pencils were from the Lake District? I'm like, yes,
it's tradition now. It's part of as
absolutely.
traditional as a snowman. So yes, no, it's a really cool place. So.
Yeah. So how many people visit the Lake District a year, do you know?
I think it's about 18 million.
Wow.
So that when I worked at the Lake District, we were the Lake District National Park.
Hmm.
So we had lots of style guidelines about not calling it the lakes. But I have to say, if you are a visitor, if you kind of go a little bit outside the border, sometimes and the boundary, it can be a little bit quieter.
Yes.
And there's whole little pockets that are, I'm sure if they weren't next to the Lake District, would be incredibly popular, like Kirby Lonsdale and
Hmm.
Grange over Sands. But it's just by their location, everybody's drawn to the lakes.
Yes, yeah. So how do the websites and social media help attract people to the area?
I always see it as a like 24/7 shop window. So a lot of people, when I work with them, they say, "Oh, they can always ring us up. They can always ring us up and ask that." And I said, "Well, they can't if they're in Australia
No.
and they're researching their trip." So with the social media, I mean, when I started there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't Facebook, and I ended up taking them on because I felt like somebody should.
Mm.
And I think I grew the Twitter, I mean, from 0 to, I can't remember when it left, was it 500,000?
Yeah.
But it's just that thing of keeping it front of mind. And often people it's escapism, especially if you're planning a trip.
Mm.
You're sort of sat in I don't know, the middle of January going, oh, I'm really looking forward to my trip. And the planning that goes into it, the more you can inform them, even of the trickier things, for example, parking, the more prepared people are and the
Yeah.
better trip they have at the end.
Yeah.
I worked at a holiday company down in Gatwick before I went to the Lake District for 4 years, and we found the complaints levels were always highest for the last minute people who didn't even know which hotel on
Hmm.
allocation, didn't really know where they were going, whereas the people who'd booked, months ahead were fully informed with what was going on, and their expectations were sort of set at those levels as well.
Yeah. And you say about people ringing up, people just don't, do they? Even in this country, they'd much rather go online and find it out than have to make a phone
Oh,
call.
yeah, absolutely. It's why it's so important that things are kept up to date on the
Mm.
website. The reason I'm called Ink Gardener was because my career catchphrase until I went freelance was a website is like a garden, and I could see my colleagues rolling their eyes, go, "Here she goes again," a bit like the snowman reference. But it's true. It's so many places. It's a lot of effort setting up a website. I really appreciate that. And a lot of places are like, oh, thank goodness that's up. We don't have to think about it for a
Yeah.
while. But you do, because it's
Hmm.
often people's first port of call.
Yeah.
But I find, and I've worked with hundreds of businesses and organizations, it's often last on the list to be updated because
Yeah.
people are like, oh, we'll do that later. And social media has it's become the kind of favorite child. And the
Mm.
poor website is in the background, sort of doing some great work, but because it's not quite as, whizzy, people tend to forget about it. But you must, just think about how you research your own trips.
Yeah.
Where do you go and where do you look? So
Yeah. And I suppose that the thing to remember is that the social media is ultimately pointing people back to the website, isn't it?
absolutely, the website should be the mothership. I always say that everything should go back to it because you can't fit too much in there, and often it will be overwritten in a few days if it's on Instagram or TikTok. But if it's on your website, I mean, you can do it both ways because so I many of my clients are like, I don't have time to write blogs,
Mhm.
I don't have time to do social media. So I always advise, well, you kind of always reduce, reuse, recycle.
Mhm.
I said you could do a series on Instagram about, I don't know, quirky objects in your collection, and you do one a week, and that's a paragraph, and then you smush those all together, and that becomes a blog for the website.
Yeah.
And then next year, because people have the attention span of a gnat, you can recycle those again
Yeah.
and run the series. And the people who remember it will go, oh, yeah, they'll just scroll past it. They'll go, I think I've read this before. But the number of times on social media that I read something that I talk to the person, and they went, oh, yeah, I ran that last year.
Mm.
Did you? Oh, I must have read it last year. But, we just forget we've got so
Yeah.
many pulls on our
Yeah.
attention. So.
Yeah. So how has your background working in heritage influenced your current business?
It's really because I'm the target audience. I go to stately homes. I'm an auntie to three, so when they were younger, I was taking them to Ray Castle, and we were trying archery, and so I kind of I love history. I live in York, and I'm so enthusiastic, and I'm always dragging visitors around. So for me, it's just a natural progression to specialize in historic areas because I know the questions that people are going to ask because I ask them myself. So it's with my job, I tend to say to my clients, I'm not working for you. I'm working on behalf of your target audience.
Yes.
Um, because a lot of times people have an idea of what they should be putting on their website, but we need to tell them this. And I try and flip it to say, no, what do they need to know? And there's so many clues, especially in reviews. I feel like sometimes, the TripAdvisor reviews are such a great place to look,
Mm.
even if they're moaning, even if they're whinging about whatever, can you flip that to something more positive? So perhaps you charge quite a lot and they're kind of like, "Mm," and you kind of explaining, well, it's sightseeing. You're also getting access to a free museum. You're also getting a year's visitor access. Although on that, I would say the whole gift aid thing with the tickets.
Hmm.
A lot of people promote that, which is fantastic. You can come back any time in the next year. Well, most people don't care about the next year. They're there for maybe a couple of days. It might be that day.
Mm.
They might want to step out and go and have lunch somewhere. Can they come back for free that afternoon?
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time I work with people, they go, yeah, of course they can. I said, well, you need to make that very
Yes.
clear.
Yeah.
Again, it's just thinking about their needs rather than, there's always a little bit of a dissonance between it, and I suppose I'm trying to bridge that as
Yeah.
diplomatically as possible.
So what drew you to becoming self-employed and doing this?
um, it was funny. I've been 11 years in the Lake District, and I was brought up in, well, East Anglia and then North Yorkshire. So I felt I was rusting. There's a reason there's lakes. It's beautiful when it hit the days. It's beautiful, but I was kind of wanting to come back to the eastern side of the
The
Pennines.
drier
I got a
side of the
family.
country.
Dry far, so yes, to dry out a little bit, and I wanted to come back to family, and I kind of then is Scarborough, so I was kind of yeah, maybe York, and I was looking for jobs, um, and then it was kind of accidental because I thought, okay, there's a voluntary redundancy came up, which I took, and I thought, right, this is the time to write my novel. Um, and then Northumberland National Park kind of got wind that I was leaving, and they went, actually, we really need someone to do our visiting section. And I knew we all use the same software,
Hmm.
content management system, all the national parks in England and Wales, which I'd been involved in that project selecting it, which was a whole thing. Making sure that, you've got kind of dual language for Wales and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I did Northumberland, and then my counterpart at the Yorkshire Dales National Park went on long-term sick very quickly, and they were in the middle of moving their website migration project. So I got a bit of a plea saying, "Can you help us?" But because it's online, it's
Yeah.
remote working. So yeah, so I kind of fell into it, and then it was just like, I like this. This is fun. I like the word freelancer because it comes from the knights that used to go around the mercenaries with a
Mm.
lance, and you would
Ah,
employ them. That's where it comes from, and I love that idea of being a pen for hire.
I
Um, yeah.
I shall remember that. So do you come across heritage attractions that still don't have a website?
Very rarely, very rarely. I think that usually what happens is they've had a website, they've had a grant, they've had that pocket of money, they've set something up, or sort of maybe a volunteer did it, or someone did it and didn't leave the instruction manual,
Hmm.
and it's been held together with, like, bits of sellotape and elastic bands, and it's that. So I mean, I try and fit my content within the design. Um, but I get frustrated because a lot of times people are thinking about how pretty it is, how beautiful it is, but Google doesn't rank on pretty.
No.
It's looking for the words. It's really needing those words. It's needing you to say where your nearest town is, to explain that you're family friendly. It's because it's making a word cloud. And the way it does that is through the words on your website. So if they're not there and you're being very minimal or it hasn't been updated, that's the impression they're going to get. They're not psychic.
Yeah.
I always equate search robots. I don't like spiders, and the idea is these search robots are indexing the internet all the time, and I always equate them to, do you know Despicable Me,
Oh,
the
yes.
minions, the yellow minions, and I always feel really mean when I say this. That they're very industrious, but they're not too bright. So they've got a clipboard and they're trying to find this information, and the more you can help them, the more likely you are to rank and turn up on the radar of the person on Google or now AI search.
Yeah. Oh, I like that analogy. Minions.
A bit friendlier.
So are you able to help attractions that have got a site that's out of date?
Oh, absolutely, yes. But I'm never, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I kind of see it as, so I did a big project with Durham Cathedral a few years ago, and they were moving the website from one content management system to another.
Hmm.
So I was kind of there as the copywriter, but I was calling out that, something, they had 2 pages on about the choir, for example, which one was in volunteers, one was in music. I think they had just kind of bubbled up. They'd just grown up organically, and neither realised the other one was. So they're doing twice the work
Yeah.
updating this. So yeah, I kind of I'm there kind of moving the good stuff, taking that, probably adapting it a little to be a bit more web friendly and customer friendly. Um, and also kind of saying, oh, we need some fresh content. But I also do, I call the invisible indexing, which humans don't really see. But I'm trying to make things as appealing as possible
Mm.
to the minions. Because I think sometimes heritage attractions, it's they they trip themselves up, and it's like interpretation panels in a display.
Mm.
I've just been to York Art Gallery. It's got this amazing exhibition on the Great Wave, the Japanese woodcut,
Mm.
and it's absolutely fabulous and it's brilliant. And part of the reason is their interpretation panels are so pared down, but so punchy
Yeah.
and so well written. The flow through that exhibition is brilliant. And I feel that sometimes you get specialists. So in the Lake District, it was ecologists. In other places, it can be the archivists or the curators who are passionate about something and they want to share this with everybody. But on a website, it's just very dense text,
Yeah.
and people don't read how they
No.
used to.
No.
I can't, you just don't. It's like I call it the lily pad way of looking. And they followed people's eyeballs on a website to see where they look, and it's either the shape of an F, capital F, or
Yes.
capital E. They could
Yeah.
go across, they go down, they go across, which is why it's important to, like interpretation panels, put a little header, and then if you can make that quite enticing, and then you earn the right for the person to read underneath. And you've always got PDFs, and you've always got internal links, and you've got, video or audio, or you can link to things. And again, on websites, they're not brochures. You can link back to other places. You might have already written about it somewhere else. You might have had a blog on that. Do a little link.
Yeah.
The really passionate person will follow that link.
Yes.
The casual observer will just go, oh no, I'm looking for something else. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned video there. How useful is it to have audio and video on a website?
Oh, brilliant! Because everybody is, it's using all the senses. I would say websites are a very sterile environment. It's literally computer screen. You can't catch kind of intonations, voices like now. You can't. You can pick up so much more if you do a 360-degree,
Mm.
twirl around the middle courtyard, and suddenly people realize how big you are, or maybe audio, sort of talking you through an exhibition, or it could be clips from, I mean, dialect clips are always fantastic for
Hmm.
like regional attractions. So yeah, it's sort of hitting all those points of some people are very visual, some it comes to them, they like to listen, and they kind of soak in the information that way. We can't do touch yet on the website, but you can certainly use texture and even somebody's hand, going through, I don't know, a beautiful garment from the 17th century and showing the embroidery or
Mm.
whatever it is, or turning a book. Even that kind of does that human kinetic connection.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the most important information for attractions to have on their website? And are there things that they often forget to include?
I always say that I don't know if I'm sure your listeners, if they're in heritage attractions, will know this already, but the top three things, which is a view, a brew, and a loo, or I've heard it's called a C, a T, and a wee. So what's there? Is there somewhere to eat? And is there somewhere to go to the loo? I mean, those are the fundamentals, and it doesn't sound very glamorous, some of them, but that's, people really need to know that they kind of come to the day for the day. So I was talking to an attraction, and they're in the centre of York, and they were like, well, they don't have a cafe.
Hmm.
And they're like, but we've got all these cafes in York. I'm like, yes, but people tend to have this mentality of we're going to the thing, we stay there, especially with your family.
Mm.
You kind of, it's almost like having kind of like, I don't know, castle walls around the day. You know where you're going, it's one place, it's not too confusing. So it's really making sure you've got, you're explaining what's there. And I would say for families, there's always a lot of emphasis on the younger ones, but teenagers, anyone who's been around with a bored teenager, if you can kind of get something, usually it's a little bit more macabre or a bit more in depth. And then, so it's opening times, and make sure they're up to date, and
Mhm.
make sure that, if you've got, closing for filming or something, you are saying that way ahead,
Yeah.
as soon as you can, as soon as it's confirmed, it's in the communications diary. It's like, right, we are putting on that website now because people plan ahead.
Yeah.
Um, Parking, where's parking? How far away is it? Um, and if you've got public transport, this is a big bugbear. I didn't have a car for 2 years in the Lake District. Um, and people are often seeing you and then going on somewhere else. And we all want, to use public transport. It's very good. It's very, it's helpful for the environment. Have you got lockers? Have you got a place where people can leave their bags?
Mm.
Or is there a left luggage place nearby? Point these links out. And sometimes coach parking, it could be that you don't have it, but the local council provides it. So if they're doing a drop off for a group, you have to be kind of clear to the person organising it. Yes, your coach driver can go and park 2 miles away and then come collect you from this drop off area, and it's designated. So it's really the practicalities of it. If you get those in, those are the essentials, and then you can do the fun stuff afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of sort of smaller attractions don't have much of a budget. Is it expensive to have a website built? And once they've got one, is it easy for them to look after it?
I mean, websites, it's how long is a piece of string, but
Yeah.
it is a bit kind of, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. You have to be careful. So there are some very good off-the-shelf content management systems like Wix and Squarespace, for
Mhm.
example. A lot of people will start with those. The trouble is you don't get as high up in Google on those.
Mm.
Um, I mean, the average cost of a website, I would say a decent one is at least £3,000,
Yeah.
which a lot of people will balk at. But I did do a little research. I was thinking about it. It's like, you know, Lake District National Park, that was 1.6 million visitors a year were coming to the website.
Mm.
So if you had 1.6 million leaflets, A5 leaflets printed, not distributed, just printed,
Mm.
that would be £20,000.
Right.
And are you going to be able to get that leaflet over to Australia or
Mhm.
America or Germany? So it is a fantastic. I always see it as like a part-time marketing assistant
Mhm.
who's beavering away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, giving you a really good presence. So it's worth investing. But when you do invest, the biggest thing, and I've seen it so many times, is somebody set it up, maybe a member of staff who's quite keen on coding. They retire.
Yeah.
No one knows how to update the website.
Yeah.
So if you can do an off-the-shelf package, or you use something which is recognized. So WordPress is still the gold standard
Mhm.
because, so example I always give is, do you remember when everybody got iPads for Christmas? Um, Suddenly websites needed to be responsive, which meant that they would shrink down to an
Yes.
iPad. They
Yeah.
would show well. WordPress, because it was open source, so that means somebody makes a improvement and that gets rolled out across all the sites.
Yeah.
That happened overnight. Nobody had to go and pay somebody to do that for
Mm.
them. So it's really trying to future-proof when you do it. And the other thing I would stress is microsites. With grants in particular, it's very tempting to say, oh, we'll do a microsite about that. So again, Lake District National Park, we had archaeology. The archaeologist had a pot of money for some history stuff, which was great. And she was like, "We need to do a microsite." I said, "No, we're pulling that into the main site.
Mm.
We'll do a different section." But that means when we upgrade the main site, that will come with us.
Yeah.
It's like putting the lifeboat boat on board the ship instead of towing it behind you. It's all in one place, and it's going to be cheaper in the long run to keep that up to date. Otherwise, it would kind of withered, and we'd have had to, had to just either ignored it or closed it down because it wouldn't have been upgraded in the same way.
Yeah. So do you need to be very tech savvy in order to keep a website up to date?
Not at all. If you can drive a car, if you can operate, say, if you can operate a mobile phone, should be able to do a good website. If it's a good content management system, if it's got strong bones, if it's been organized clearly, and using kind of best practice rather than the whims of a certain person, then it should be easy to, you log in. It's like updating a Word file or something. A good system will it won't allow you to break the framework. It's like updating a picture in a frame. And I think a lot of people get very anxious and they're, oh, I can break the website. I don't want to update it. And it's like, no, 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 you are only given certain areas you can
Yeah.
update. You can't break that bit. There are text blocks that you can update. There are images you can update, but that bit you're going to need some admin levels, and you haven't got that, so don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. Do you train your clients in how to make updates for themselves?
Yes, absolutely. So especially if I'm doing a website migration, I'm using the new system. I'm seeing its idiosyncrasies and any quirks. If I can, I will try and smooth those out and report those back to the techies who are establishing the website. So it's like, look, this is a really weird way of updating this. Could we just do this? Because I've worked in many content management systems. And then I kind of write a bit of a manual for people. So, it's like, if you want to do this, I'll do a screenshot with an arrow, click this, do this, because we've all done it. We go to training, a training session, we sit there, we write notes, it gets pushed away somewhere. A month later, we need to do the update or do the thing, and we go, oh goodness, what was it again?
Yeah.
So I'm very visual. So I'm kind of, yes, point here, do that. But like I say, if it's a good system, they've got so much better. It used to be you had to code, you had to do actual coding, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you mentioned that you live in York, which is obviously a very historic place. So tell me about some of the places that you have enjoyed visiting in York or the wider area.
Oh, it's a dream to be being a York resident. I always have to leave at least an extra 5 minutes to go anywhere because I always see a different view or a different bit of architecture. And there's some fabulous stuff around. So in the centre, I mean, Jorvik Viking Centre is the obvious one, but I would stress that they've started doing a thing for winter where they're winterifying it. So they're putting a lot of fake snow and reindeer skins and blue lights. It's great. It's magical. It's a lovely thing to go around. And I always put the children's audio on
Yeah.
because it's great fun. And then Fairfax House, which is this jewel box of a Georgian building for perfect if you love Jane Austen, Bridgerton, really enthusiastic room guides. And it's right in the centre of York. It's just near Clifford's Tower. And that's always, and again at Christmas or certain times of the year, they get their little mice out. So you've got these beautiful little mice figurines who are doing naughty things with eating mince pies or something. And then I think one that's really overlooked is the Bar Convent, which is just outside the city walls. And it was a secret convent that was built when being Roman Catholic was still illegal.
Yeah.
And it was on the main road coming into York from the south. And they were like, no, it's a girls' school. It's fine. And they built a secret chapel inside. They had priest holes. It's phenomenal. It really is. And it's a beautiful building. But again, it's this real kind of wow, how gutsy was that to do
Yeah.
at the time to establish. Also a fabulous cafe. If you're ever in New York and you're stuck at the station, just walk 5 minutes up the road and they've got a lovely cafe with lovely gardens at the back. So that's one of my favourites. And then further afield, shout out to the Rotunda in Scarborough,
Oh, yes.
which is
Yeah.
charming building. Just it
Yeah.
is round. And then also Rydale Folk Museum is really lovely up in Hutting the Hole, which has got like kind of low-level thatched cottages, and it's a folk museum, so how people used to live in rural areas. It's very special.
Yeah, lots to keep you happy there, Helen.
Oh yes.
So my last question then, if people want to find out more about you and your services, what's the best place for them to find you?
My website, which is www.inkgardener, I-N-K, Gardener, Gardener.co.uk. I didn't realise that gardener was quite a tricky word for people when I set up the business. So inkgardener.co.uk. I'm also on LinkedIn as Helen Reynolds. And if I could just add, I'd love to do a special offer for your listeners. until the 31st of August, if you email me with the secret code of Come Here, then I can send you my free Heritage Attractions Target Audience Tips document. I find that sometimes you can get very overwhelmed with your target audience, and that people are going into, her name's, she's Susan, and she's 32, she has 4 children. That no, you don't need that. You just need, I just have 4 people, pictures that I pulled off the internet, and just a little note underneath about them. And one of them was a little girl in a wheelchair going, "Are there any dragons in the Lake District?" And when I was getting really lost in what I was writing, she'd pull me back and go, "Okay, that's who I'm writing for."
Yeah.
So I've got an equivalent now with lots of tips. So yes, please email me on helen@inkgardener.co.uk with the secret code of Come Here, and I'll send that PDF off to you. That'd be fabulous.
That's lovely. Very generous of you, Helen. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me, Liz. Have a great summer.
Thanks for listening to Come Here. If you know a heritage attraction that would love to be featured, or you have a suggestion for somewhere you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. To find my email address and find out more about me, pop to my website at lizdrury.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, rate and review the show. It really helps other people to find it. See you next time, and come and discover somewhere else worth visiting.